Okie dokes, welcome back to the next part of how to airsoft. In this video today, hopefully you have now done your first 3 games at a UKARA certified site here in the UK, or a site that can provide some kind of sponsorship for you to be able to purchase, or a defence should I say, to purchase your first airsoft replica. Now today's video I'm going to talk a little bit about some brands and a little bit about some options for purchasing. I'm going to put pictures up on the screen. In fact, I'm going to move now to one side to allow picture space here, so we can give you some prices and some ideas on some starter equipment. Now, first thing I want to get out of the way is that we're going to split these recommendations into 2 halves. So general airsoft and CQB. And the reason why I'm splitting them in half is that you will find that one item is going to perform very differently to another in both the short and the long range. Okay, so we're going to split up into CQB and into general airsoft. And I'll let you know which one's which at the same time. Now, we're also going to talk about budgets too, so kind of low budget, mid budgets and high budgets. Now, I would recommend that you have a serious think about your first airsoft rifle or replica, because number one, buy cheap, buy twice. So if you're buying the stuff on the very cheap end of the scale and you're enjoying yourself in the sport, you're going to find yourself spending a hell of a lot more money afterwards and being stuck with an item you may never use. I know I have, because this is my first AEG, which I don't use anymore. However, I am now speed softing this and have a build on the go behind the scenes, which I'll be sharing with you later on once I figure out exactly what I want to do with it. I'm still playing around, but that was £200 from Spectre Arms, and they are not on my recommended list for this episode. And I'm going to get onto some things that I don't recommend, just from personal experience, but also as well from kind of like some community-wide views from people I play with and their kind of warnings too, and try and compile this all down into one. So let's get started, and I think the first thing we're going to talk about is CQB. So stuff that's close range. I'm going to talk about cheap options, more expensive options are going in through there, and then we'll talk about woodland stuff too, but we're going to go through brands. So first of all, I actually want to start off with a brand that is, I would say, up and coming in a way. So and it's Action Army. So Action Army have made a few different things, and what they're aiming for is the modular market. So they're aiming to create highly modular bits of equipment. They also make a ton of aftermarket parts for both their own replicas and other people's. But Action Army make the kind of most popular airsoft replica out there now. It's based on a Ruger, and I believe it is, at least I could put it on the screen, and it is the AAP01, which I'll put up here right now. This is hands down the most popular riff in airsoft right now. You can use it both in CQB and in woodland sites. If you're just going to use it in woodland sites, there's an upgrade package where you can give it a ridiculously long barrel and basically make it into a carbine. This is a base platform that you can go anywhere with. If you want to turn this pistol into a full-on SMG, or even kind of an assault rifle build with a very long barrel that can keep up with any other replica on the game field for range, that's an option. If you want to keep it in CQB, you want to keep it very short as possible, and then you want to upgrade rate of fire, stuff like that, you can do all of these things. You want to whack a HPA adapter on it, you can. There's HPA adapters now that even allow you to run M4 mags at the front from CTM. So Action Army AAP01 is going to be a low budget option, because you can buy this with a magazine, I think, for around the £80 mark. I'm going to find the cheapest price I can find online for this, and I'll put the store on there. About £8 not bad. Mags are anywhere between £30 and £50. They do take Glock mags that are, I believe, TM standard Glock mags, so pretty much any Glock mag is going to work in there that works for any other general Glock. There are some better magazines than others, so do your research first. And then you can also run drum mags on it too. So if you were going to be really lazy, you can buy a magazine that's as expensive as the pistol, and that's all you need to run it for its entire lifetime, because that drum mag will be a couple hundred rounds, and doesn't need refilling very often. To run an AAP01, you're also going to need green gas, which is what you're going to need for gas guns. You can also run something like Ultra Air. This is the one I've been using at the moment and having the most fun with. This is available from a shop near me called Fire Support, and you can get it very cheap for about £5 a bottle, I think. This has no silicone in it. The reason being is that with gas replicas, if you get stuff that's got too much silicone in it, it's going to lube up your hop-up unit, and then it's going to make your hop-up less effective. So you just want to be a bit careful with that. So yeah, AAP01, first recommendation, very, very cheap. The only thing I say about AAP01, upgrading them can be difficult because not all parts are compatible, and you can end up putting a new part in and it actually becomes a downgrade. Number two, maintenance on them. You do need to keep up with it. There's a lot of exposed parts, a lot of places that dirt and dust can get in, so you do need to make sure that you're keeping up with your maintenance. Awesome. Next one then, the next recommendation from a different brand would be Nuprol's Delta Pioneer. Now, this is not really a recommendation, it's more of a warning and a kind of... If you think you're going to play Airsoft maybe twice a year and you just want your own riff because you don't want to pay ridiculous prices to constantly do rentals, then Nuprol is a brand for people that are getting into Airsoft but maybe haven't got a clue what they want yet. So they want something cheap they can play with while they're still figuring it out. And the reason why the Nuprol Delta Pioneers on this list is that it is normally a Airsoft replica bought for youngsters. So if you've got a youngster that's kind of 14, 15 years old, they have no idea where they want to go in the sport, and you're not wanting to invest too much. The Pioneers, they work, so you can buy them now, I think, with in bundles where you can get like a battery, a charger, and the riff all together in one go. Cheap as chips, we're talking sub £150 for everything you would need to run it, which is cheaper than pretty much anything else on my list today for having a complete kind of full setup. And do remember that if you're running an AEG, you need a battery, you need a charger that supports your battery as well, so that can add on to the price of buying an AEG. So the Nuprol Delta Pioneer is an option. Now, if you're thinking of playing this every month, do not buy it. It's not the gun for you. I wouldn't recommend Nuprol to anybody other than the very entry level of the sport where you really aren't sure what you want, so you just want as cheap as possible. Because two reasons: shops are now not stocking Nuprol, and a lot of techs aren't servicing them. I actually ran into this recently because I walked into a shop, I won't name names just in case it gets them in trouble, but they have a massive sign: they won't service Nuprol, they won't service Vorsk, they won't service Double Eagle, literally any of the cheap brands they will now not touch and they now will not sell. Because a lot of people are now having issues with, especially with Nuprol, if you do buy a Nuprol AEG, don't expect it to work forever. They will break down, and buying parts to repair them is more expensive than buying your next riff. So it's something to keep in mind. It's in my list of, if a bit like the AEP one, it is dirt cheap. There is nothing cheaper than that, and it will work and you can have a game day with it. However, if you need anything else for any other reason, I wouldn't recommend it. So AAP01 from Action Army and the Nuprol Delta Pioneer are your cheapest of the cheap. They are beyond budget. Okay. The next thing I would tell people to look at is a new brand that's brought out, and currently it's only available from a few suppliers in the UK, which is Raven Evolution. Raven Evolution is, I believe, a Canadian brand. They're new to the market here in the UK, but their AEGs come with MOSFETs, so I don't know if they're programmable MOSFETs, but they definitely have options in there for like semi, full auto, burst, all of that stuff it comes with. Obviously you can run much better batteries, so you normally, I think it's 7.4 a lot of people run their AEGs on, but your gun's going to be much slower than other people's guns in the way of fire rate and trigger responsiveness. You also, without a MOSFET, you won't get things like pre-cocking, which basically gives you the same first shot speed as a gas gun because your pistons are already back, which means that the first shot is literally just your gun letting go and allowing the spring to push forwards and fire the first BB. So you'll have similar response rates and trigger response to a gas gun. Still not as fast as HPA, because that's always going to be the fastest if you're running an HPA engine, but you're going to have much better time there. So the Raven Evo, currently they're doing it in a bundle from BZ, which is sub £200, and that gives you everything you need to start playing, with some of the onboard goodiness that you're going to want to have to make your kind of airsoft dreams a reality. So a fantastic one for a start, and again, a low budget. I wouldn't say super economy, I wouldn't say it's in the level of New Pro or Action Army, but I would definitely say this is one tier above for those of you at home. Next then, if you're looking still in the AEG market because you want something that's all in one, kind of low maintenance, kind of, you don't want to necessarily tackle HPA or gas yet, my kind of last two recommendations in the AEG are going to be your mid-tier and your high-tier AEG. So the first one will be is one I've played with once before as a rental, and I really enjoyed it, and it was super snappy and everything on board was lovely. And that's going to be the G&G ARP9. For those budding speed softers or the people wanting to have a bit more of a flamboyant loadout, they come in a ton of different colours. And the ARP9, much smaller magazines, are easier to carry because they're just stick mags. And I would say for value for money, the G&G ARP9 is also incredibly upgradable. It's part of that G&G ecosystem, so there's lots of aftermarket parts that are very easy plug in and play with them. And then also as well, because G&Gs are mostly all compatible with each other, you then have parts you can swap around between the ecosystem. So for example, I in the future have fancied taking a G&G Lever, which is the lever action gas kind of sniper that G&G do now, and because that is compatible with any G&G uppers, you then have the G&G FAR 9, and the G&G FAR 9 is a folding gun, so you can put a folding gun parts on a sniper rifle to make it even more compact when you're transporting it. So you've got options there. So you've got a whole G&G ecosystem, and they are an established and well-loved brand, which are reliable. So this is where we're starting to get into long-term usage for Rifts. The ARP9 is something you will use for a long time. The last of all is actually one that I held recently, and somebody let me have a few shots through, and I thought for an all-in-one package that doesn't need upgrades and will kind of be bomb-proof for quite a long time, with lots of lovely furniture, which means even the externals are exquisite. If you're looking for that high-level AEG, you then have the PTS Centurion. Put it up on the screen here. All PTS furniture, so super high quality furniture on it. The internals are pretty immaculate too. I am not sure on the internals because I personally haven't gone through the whole list, but I can tell you that the guy that passed to me said it was out of the box, no upgrades whatsoever, and I would say this has the value of a £600-700 AEG with aftermarket upgrades and aftermarket furniture. But the whole thing's high quality. Even the upper and lower receiver is high quality too. So what a lot of people end up doing is buying cheaper AEGs like your New Pros and slapping all this expensive furniture and all these expensive parts inside. This is high quality even at a base level, and the guy said he has taken it apart, and even things like the gearbox housing and everything like that, everything is super high quality, which means even if they did want to upgrade, put some more higher tolerance parts into it, which is going to put a lot more stress on the gun as a whole, you've got no worries with the PTS Centurion. PTS are new to the market on making AEGs. So just keep that in mind. They are a new contender, which means that as far as it goes for doing upgrades, there's less guides for those guys than there are for other AEGs. However, I believe they are TM standard for most upgrade parts. Awesome. Now we're getting into more of the gas stuff. So the next recommendation is going to be from Tokyo Marui. This is personally a brand that I love. I love TM. Quite hard to get hold of globally because they're so popular. They're always in short supply. But you've got two options for CQB here. So most of what I've read so far you can use in any environment. Of course, things like the Centurion are going to do better in games where you're not quite close quarters because you've got pretty long kind of inner and outer barrel, whereas the Action Army AAP one's going to be great in close combat unless you upgrade it to be good for long distance shots. But now we're going to go more into specifics, so high end specifics. So more expensive pistol, normally retailing between 100 and 150 pounds. You've got the TM High Capper. Now the gold match is the most popular in the industry at the moment. That's just because out of the box it looks a bit snazzier than the government issue version, which is all black, so it just looks a bit more snazzy. It's a 5.1 high capper. There are differences in high cappers for barrel and slide length, so you do need to make sure that you're making a note of, if you do buy a high capper, what your barrel and slide length is, and it can affect your compatibility with certain components. The TM High Capper, between 100 and 150 pounds depending on the supplier you get it from, and it comes with a single mag in the box. Mags are anywhere between 22 and 35 pounds, I would say, on average, depending if you're going to buy cheaper mags that are from off-brand or if you're going to buy the actual TM ones. 30 rounds in a magazine because it's a double stack mag, so I find in a 20-minute game I can go through 2 magazines, so I run 4 total, because normally where the game sites I'm at, it's a 20-minute game, you swap sides, 20-minute game, so 4 mags for me tends to do me for a match, and it tends to be with these magazines. They're similar to the high capper magazines I have in my Sand Viper, or actually pretty much exactly the same because they are TM standard, so they'll also hold 2 to 3 magazines worth of gas as well. Once again, to run those you are going to need a bottle of gas to go with it and BBs, but otherwise they are need less to run, so you haven't got to have your batteries and all the chargers and stuff. There's the AGs, but you are going to have more maintenance because there's much more moving parts. Awesome. Next would be the MP7. So if you're looking for something that's an actual rifle, or SMG in this case, rather than just a pistol, you have the TM MP7. Again, hard to get because they're not always in stock, and I bought mine for just over £200. But however, depending on the retailer, they can end up costing up to £350. So do some shopping around. I'll put the cheapest price I can find in stock today on the screen here, and I mean in stock. So if it's a website that does it cheaper but it's not in stock, I won't list it here for you guys. And it is in stock at the time of me filming, which is currently end of July. Awesome. TM MP7's great, not very upgradable. There's very few parts aftermarket you can get for those. Most of the aftermarket parts for the MP7 are just to make the lifespan of the gun longer. It doesn't really need many upgrade parts. The only other catch for the MP7 is you will have to shop around for gas, because different times of the year it's going to hit different limits quicker, and it doesn't have the ability to have, or at least I don't think so, I could be completely wrong here, they might do an end pass for it now, but normally you have adjustable valves, which you can get in certain gas guns, which you can put the power down even though it's using the same gas. Don't really have that in these, so you might have to run white gas in the middle of the summer and green gas in the winter, or potentially some other gases depending on what works for you. Awesome. Another honourable mention from TM. Now this is just an honourable mention because, again, I have a friend who has one of these, but it is heavily upgraded, so I don't know what it's like in person. I just think that the gun's super high quality. You also have the TM 416, which is part of their next gen recoil system. So if you want something that's a halfway between gas and electric, the NGRS is an electric recoil because it has an electric recoil system, or EBB, electric blowback. So it's a bit more realistic than your average gun. And then it's got TM internals, which tend to work incredibly well out of the box. Quite expensive though, because the NGRSs are all in the £500 mark, but another great addition if you're looking for maybe electric blowback. I'll put a picture up on the screen. Last of all is our super high range, and it's where I think I would have started if I had had more information. And the reason why I would have started here is that sometimes your option for airsoft is to start with the absolute best and then work your way back down as your skill level increases. And the reason being is that for a lot of people, cheaper guns and cheaper replicas and more unusual replicas are much more fun to play, but once you've built up a skill level within the sport that allows you to use them effectively, so you're still participating in the match and getting kills. For example, I wouldn't say I'm the best player in the world, although I did get a couple of compliments for how many kills I got with my Colin the Caterpillar build. So I can go round our local game site and smashed with a regular pistol, which meant when I was running Colin the Caterpillar, yes, I was dying more often and getting less kills because it's not as accurate for the LCP Mark II inside of a Colin the Caterpillar skin. But this gun is nowhere near the quality of my my Sand Viper, which is a high capper, because it doesn't fire as fast and has nowhere near enough ammo. But I enjoy playing with this with my current skill level, which is just a bit of fun. It's something different. So where I would have started is with Wolverine, because they sell HPA out of the box ready replicas. They have it split up into a couple of different categories. So you have your MTWs, which are your ARs with a selection of barrel lengths. You then have your MTW9s, which are their kind of like submachine gun, kind of 9mm versions of their ARs. So slightly different platform there. And then they have their CQB Speedsoft collection, which is their article series from their sister or partner company, which is Heretic Labs. All of them use a HPA engine, so you're having to buy the gun, the bottle, and the regulator and a line. So there are some extra parts there, but they're one-off purchases. Unlike batteries that can go bad, stuff like that, the only thing you really have to replace in the HPA world is your bottle, which is about £40, and it's the cheapest part to replace. Batteries are obviously cheaper, but they're harder to maintain because, again, you have to make sure you haven't overcharged, undercharged your battery. You have to keep it in a special pouch all the time, all of that stuff. I have some Airsoft batteries. I take them, if we go away for the weekend, I take them with me in a metal tin in the back of my car because I don't want to leave them in the house just in case something happens while I'm not here. So there is a pack that BZ are currently doing, which is here for the Article 1 in ultramarine blue, I think, currently. I'll put it up on the screen. They're doing this bundle currently, which is everything you need to get started. And that's probably where I would have started, with the Article 1 bundle. Now, hear me out on this. You can do anything with an Article 1. In fact, I will show you my Article 1 right now, which is currently in its long range configuration, which is for playing outdoor woodland, or in this case when I went to the jail. So that is my build there, with a stock folded. I can fold the stock out for you now quick. But this is my long range configuration build for when I'm playing in longer range environments. I can even make it even longer if I want to, because we have the PTS Sandman suppressor, which goes on the end like that. There you go, it's even longer now. So this is a Art 1, but then the bonus is out of the box, it's built for CQB. And you won't have a lighter and speedier gun for CQB out of the box. I will say that out of the box is the key word there. There are, obviously, if you want to buy a gun like this, which is a Spectre Arms E17L, or was, and then I've stuck a bunch of Speedsoft parts on it, that's an option too, but it's going to be harder to do for a first timer. So those are my recommendations from low to high range, just a couple of riffs that I've had hands on with, which I can guarantee that you'll be able to play the game with. So again, the budget stuff like the new Prol and the AAPO1, fantastic. The AAPO1's at least upgradable. With the new Prol, it is a throwaway gun, so if you're going to buy it just to maybe take you into your first year of Airsoft so you can properly cement what you want to buy, maybe you've got a really low budget and that's all you can afford, that's probably your best option. If you can save up a little bit more and you can get something like the Raven Evo bundles from, again, BZ I think do most of the bundles there, that's a better option. If you're more in the mid-range of budget, so £400-500, you know, your TM high cappers, then you can buy some upgrades. MP7, and you can buy a bunch of extra mags. ARP9, you can buy your mags, batteries, all of that stuff with it. You've got options there. If your budget is about £1,000, which I know is going to be a very small percentage of the audience for their first ever Airsoft setup, but if you do have £1,000 you can drop, or maybe this is your purchase for the year. I know that BZ do 0% finance, so if you're going to whack it all in a bundle package, then pay it off over the course of a year with credit, which is not bad. Sort of about £80 a month if you're spending £1,000, I'm guessing. You can do that with BZ and you can then get yourself, one of those Article 1 builds, and you can build it however you want. You want to make a long range gun, you can. If you want to make a CQB one, you can. You've got loads of options there. Now, just remember, when it comes to kind of buying your first gun, most of the time I'd recommend go and see it in person. Go to the shop or go to some shops and shop around. Avoid brands that you've not researched. So again, I wouldn't recommend New Pro or Vorsk or any of those ones to people who don't know what they're doing, because those guns are much less reliable, and like I said, people are not supporting them now because they've had issues with quality. Now, I'm not saying that things like the Vorsk VMP1s, the VMP2s, are bad, because those are actually pretty good. Hobby wide, the VMP1s, VMP2s have become very popular. However, things like the Vorsk pistols, I've had 2 people now that have had them out of the box that I know, and the hop-up unit is non-operable, which means that the first thing I've had to do after buying a pistol is buy a new hop-up and barrel, because normally they're only sold in pairs for the cheaper stuff. So it's an expensive fix for something that should work out of the box. And if it's happened with 2 people, and those are the only 2 people I know with Vorsk pistols, could it happen with most people? I don't know. Other than that, hopefully that's been useful for you. A few other things I recommend from this point onwards then is get some more games under your belt, and if you're not sure on what your first Airsoft replica should be, go and test a bunch out in stores, find something you like, then do some research on it. There's reviews for nearly every gun on the planet. If you have something that you're interested in, that you're looking at and you're not sure, you can leave a comment in this video. I can't guarantee I'll get back to all the comments, because with some of my videos where they've gotten really popular, there are a lot of comments on them and I haven't been able to get back to all of them. But I will try and get back if you post, say, what do you think of a TM Sega 12? And I'll be like, fantastic shotgun, but buy the 12K and not the SBS, because the 12K is better out of the box. Or like, what do you think of the G&G Levar? I'd be like, great if you want to be a sniper, but sniping is the hardest thing to do in Airsoft, so don't buy a Levar unless you've got lots of experience or you feel like you're competent doing so, because everybody who buys a sniper as their first gun in Airsoft quits after a couple of months because you won't get any kills with it, because sniping's the hardest thing to do in Airsoft. If people are mentioning, I'm thinking about getting a Umarex Glock. Fantastic. Umarex make Heckler and Koch and Glock replicas better than anybody else. However, aftermarket support is slightly limited, because there are a few changes in those pistols and those guns that mean that they're not compatible with all aftermarket upgrades in that respect. But they are the most realistic kind of, for the Heckler and Koch and for the Glock replicas, Umarex do the best stuff there. So you've got loads of options, and I will try my best in the comments to help you out if you're looking for a certain riff, and I'll give you my take on it. What I'll do is I'll just make a couple of lines, so you go, I'm interested in this, have you heard anything about it? And I'll be like, I've heard this, this and this, that's my experience, but you need to go and have a look at these things before you make a decision, because we want, kind of as a community, the Airsoft community wants you to enjoy yourself, because the more players there are, better games are, the better everybody gets on. So definitely have a look into it. The only thing I wouldn't suggest doing for your first Airsoft rifle is a Tokyo Marui gas blowback M4 or a gas blowback AK. So that is their Z system for the M4s, for example, or the MWS system, you can call it whatever you like. What you don't want to do is when you're getting into Airsoft is buy a gun that's more complicated than it is fun. So gas blowback guns, like I said, the MP7 from TM and your pistols are your better option. Don't buy a gas blowback rifle as your first gun unless you're happy to do an extensive amount of research in the maintenance, upgrade and running of that gun. Otherwise it will be quite difficult for you. I know somebody who brings an AOP01 and his MWS and his NGRS to game sites. He's a very good friend of mine. He's part of the team that we've now just started, and one of 3 of those will not be working at all times. So he'll turn up and the AAPI1 won't be working because it's got an issue that now has to be resolved before it can work again, or his MWS won't be working because it's either firing too hot, too cold, or the gas the actual bolt is not working as it should. And then for the NGRS, it'll be that he'll go and fire it, and because it's an AEG and changing the power on it's quite difficult, he'll go and fire it, and then for some reason it'll either be massively over and it's firing at 1.6, or it'll be massively under and it's firing at 0.5 joules, and that creates its own issue too. So just be wary, sometimes simpler is better. I'm hoping this video has been good. This one's been more of a talky and some showing of the pictures behind me, but hopefully this has been useful and contributes to you and your positive airsoft experience. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Feel free to leave comments down below, but hopefully you have fun buying your first Riff. And then my next video is going to be advertising some game sites around the UK which I think that all new airsofters should try depending on where you live. Now, because of where I live, which is in East Anglia, I will be recommending most of the area game sites in my area, but I'm actually going to do more videos as I go on, so it'll be how to airsoft, East Anglia edition, and I will recommend a bunch of sites that are within a reasonable driving distance of me for people to go and try out and play. Otherwise, have a good one, and we'll catch you in the next.